Hari Bol. Thank you, Shri Mataji. Full chanting. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Namaste, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody. Yes, hopefully everybody had a wonderful Diwali celebration yesterday in this special month of Kartik. And this is the month of Kartik. On the day of Diwali is when the Damodar Leela was enacted by the Lord, the pastime. So it was a wonderful day yesterday, very, very auspicious. And this whole month is very auspicious. And special Kartik SK. I was just looking at Shri Mataji since you were chanting. SK, special Kartik, special Kripa also comes in this month for SK. And your spiritual Kriya was also there of chanting today. So SK, thank you so much. Okay, let's continue with our prayer for this week, which is the wonderful Sri Govardhanashtakam by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, because this week is also the week of after Diwali is when the Govardhan Leela happened. There's Govardhan Puja, which actually tomorrow, that's the second day after Diwali, is Govardhan Puja, and then the Lord lifted Govardhan Hill. So we can develop our consciousness and seek blessings from Shri Giriraj Govardhan this week. Okay, let's continue. Anybody else would like to sing today? I think this is a very popular and wonderful prayer. Okay. Manakshi Moini would like to sing. Okay, we'll sing together then. All right. Krishna prasadena samasta shaila samrajyam apnoti cha vairinopi sakrashya prapa balim sa sakshad govardhano me dishatam abhishtam swaprishta hastam bujasau kumarya sukhanubhutir atibhumi vritte Mahendra Vajrahatimapyajanan Govardhano me dishatam abhishtam Yatraiva Krishno Vrishabhanuputrya Danam grahitum kalaham vitene Shrute srihayatra mahatyata Shri Govardhano me dishatam abhishtam Snatva sarasvashu samirahasti Yatraiva nipadi paragadhuli Alolayan khelati charu sashri Govardhano me dishatam abhishtam Kasturikabhi shaitam kimatrit Uham prabho swasya muhurvitanvan Naisargika swiyashila sugandhe Govardhano me dishatam abhishtam Vamsha pratidvanyanusara vartma Didrikshavo yatra harim harinyah Yantyo labhante nahi vismitasa Govardhano me dishatam abhishtam Yatraiva gangam anunaviradham Aroya madhye tunimagna nauka Krishno hi radha nugalo babhausa Govardhano me dishatam abhishtam Vina bhavet kim haridasa varya Padashrayam bhaktirata shrayami Yam eva sa prema nijeshayo shri Govardhano me dishatam abhishtam Etad patedyo haridasa varya महानुभावाष्टकमात्रचेता श्रीराधिका माधवयोपदाब्ज दास्यं सविन्दे अचिरेण साक्षात् गोवर्धनो मे दिशतामभीष्टम् गोवर्धनो मे दिशतामभीष्टम् हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्री श्री गोवर्धनाष्टकम की जय श्रीला विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय Anybody who would like to read the translation? This wonderful.
I can read, Prabhu.
Yeah, please go ahead, Shri Mataji.
May Govardhan Hill, which by Krishna's mercy became the king of all mountains and received the respectful tribute of its arch-enemy Indra, fulfill my desire. As it was held above the earth, it became so filled with happiness by experiencing the softness of its beloved Krishna's lotus hand, it did not even know it was being struck by Indra's thunderbolt. May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. Trying to collect a toll, Krishna quarreled there with King Vrishpanu's daughter. The personified Vedas yearn to list to that quarrel. May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. Bathing in a nearby lake, the elephant of a pleasant breeze, covered with pollen of kadamba and other flowers, gracefully placed there. May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. Does the sweet fragrance of Govardhan come from the musk deer who relax there, from the Lord who plays there, or is it Govardhan's own natural scent? May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. Searching there for Lord Hari on the path of his flute music, the astonished deer do not find him. May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. As a divine couple travelled on the Ganges there, the boat began to sink in the middle. Krishna was splendidly handsome as Radha clung to his neck. May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. Without taking shelter of the feet of the hill that is the best of Lord Hari's servants, and full of love for the divine king and queen, how is it possible to attain pure devotional service? May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. May the reader of these 8 verses, glorifying Lord Hari's greatest servant, his heart melting with pure love, quickly attain direct service to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Madhav. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shri Mataji. Your name itself is Shriya, which is actually signifying Lakshmi Devi. So, with your mercy, may we all, and the mercy of Shri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, may we all attain this Falashruti of this wonderful prayer. So yeah, yesterday, so hopefully everybody had a good Diwali celebration. And yeah, this is a very, very immense benefit and credit that we get by reading this wonderful prayer. And this prayers, as we said, we have been singing all these wonderful prayers from Prarthana collection by Shri Narottam Das Thakur. And this week, this is Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who is also the composer of our Mangala Arti that we sing, right? So yeah, he's a very, very exalted Vaishnava, and he coming actually in the same line as Shri Narottam Das Thakur. He was kind of in the second or third generation after Shri Narottam Das Thakur. So his Guru Maharaj was Narottam Das Thakur. So yeah, we see the mercy, how it flows again in the parampara. Okay, so let's continue with mercy from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, chapter 46. Where Prabhupada is continuing to preach in America. Yesterday we saw he has come from Denver, where he was, to Chicago. So Denver, we had His Grace Anuttama Prabhu day before yesterday. And yesterday we had Kapil Prabhu, who came from Chicago, Naperville. So DC, from D to C. And we also had Diwali celebration DC yesterday. So all nice omens there. Okay, so yes, Prabhupada was in Chicago yesterday after coming from Denver. And he was talking to the mayor there, trying to get that vacant building. And while he was coming in the flight, he had read that article from the Time magazine of why there is crime and what we can do to stop it. And Prabhupada says, yes, we have the solution, but people have to listen, right? That's the strange part, because that is um, that is the sorry state of affairs, that we have the solution, but nobody wants to listen, or very limited people want to listen to it. And like Prabhupada is giving that analogy of owl. Actually, all of us, that's what we sing the morning. We sing our Mangalacharan. We say, Om Ajnana Timirandasya, that our eyes are blinded by the darkness of ignorance. So Prabhupada is giving the analogy that in this world, everybody is like an owl. When God comes, they want to see God, but when God comes or his pure representatives come, nobody wants to even open their eyes and see and meet God, right? But they say we are in darkness, and in darkness they will open their eyes, just like owls do. But when the light comes, they close their eyes, right? So that's the sorry state of affairs that we are living in this world right now. But there's still hope. Like Prabhupada said, there will always be 50 years after Prabhupada left, this movement is still continuing. That means there are sincere, dedicated souls that Krishna is sending, because of which the movement is growing. So we don't have to see who left or who didn't take it, but we have to be surprised by who remain or who came, like Prabhupada used to say. All right, so with that note, let's continue. So yeah, we are reading from this paragraph. But there are practical alternatives. So Prabhupada's continued to talk to that mayor, or maybe after he left. So let's see what happens. But there are practical alternatives. Perhaps Prabhupada suggested that Krishna consciousness movement could use part of the building for a year. He continued describing the efficacy of Krishna consciousness. But the mayor had little else to say. Prabhupada had prasadam brought in and asked his guest if he had any further inquiry. No, I really don't think I do, Mayor Wainman replied. But I think I'd like to learn more about your movement, and I have enjoyed talking and listening to you, and I appreciate it. After the mayor left, one of Prabhupada's disciples questioned why they would want such a big building. The Chicago temple was large and not at all crowded. My idea is, Prabhupada said, I want to draw the attention of the authorities. If they cooperate, then we can push on our movement more vigorously. But with our present location here, we cannot, a devotee asked. We are doing it on a small scale, Prabhupada explained. It is going on, but if we get support from the authorities, we can push on in a larger scale. Lieutenant David Mosey, public relations representative of the Chicago Police Department, was interested in Srila Prabhupada's idea for stopping crime, and Srila Prabhupada offered his simple proposal. The government should give ISKCON a large building where the devotees could regularly hold mass kirtans and distribute prasadam, and gradually people would become purified. Lieutenant Mosey, like Mayor Wainman, was respectful and interested. Unless you clean the heart, Srila Prabhupada said, you cannot stop criminality simply by laws. The laws are already known by the thief and murderer, but still they commit because the heart is unclean, and our process is to cleanse the heart. A very difficult task, sir, said Lieutenant Mosey. Prabhupada replied that it wasn't difficult. He was already doing it on a small scale. They are faced with the problem. Why crime and what to do? He said. And we are giving the answer. So you take the advantage of it. Why crime? We are saying because they are godless. And what to do? Chant Hare Krishna and take prasadam. Now, if you like, you can take. Otherwise, we are doing our own business, just like a poor medical man. He is also giving medicine, but if he is given a big facility, he can open a big hospital. That is our proposition. We are already doing that business. But if we get facility from the authorities, then we can open a big place, a big hospital, and the problem is already big. Otherwise, why are they saying what to do? Illinois State Assemblyman John Porter, who came with his wife, also asked about the solution to crime. But he had a more direct personal interest in spiritual life. Was it possible, he asked, to make spiritual advancement without living in the temple? Srila Prabhupada told him yes, if he chanted Hare Krishna, which he could do anywhere, and he should read the standard books of the Krishna consciousness movement. Mr. Porter also inquired about the Krishna conscious understanding of certain Christian theological points, such as original sin and salvation. Srila Prabhupada, however, did not indulge in discussing theoretical or comparative religion, but emphasized the necessity of strictly following the instructions given by God or his representative. The main business, Prabhupada said, is to understand God. Mr. Porter seemed unlikely to help the devotees to get a large building, but he had inquired humbly about spiritual life. Prabhupada's unstinting deliverance of Krishna consciousness was not conditional. If anyone sincerely inquired, be he assemblyman or criminal, Srila Prabhupada was always eager to give him the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada's Chicago visit included several important functions at the temple. Tamal Krishna Goswami and Vishnu Janaswami had come to Chicago to see Srila Prabhupada and to recommend for initiation 75 new men who had joined the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtana party. And at the end of the week, Prabhupada would be attending a Rath Yatra procession in downtown Chicago. Each morning he lectured in the large hall at the Evanston Temple before several hundred devotees, speaking about the life of Ajamil. Each day he would tell more of the history of the sinner Ajamil, who was saved at the time of death by calling out the name of God Narayana. On the fourth morning, Prabhupada was explaining how Ajamil had named one of his sons Narayan. So the idea is that by God's grace, in the beginning of his life, Ajamil engaged himself to be Krishna consciousness and was initiated. Then years later, Krishna gave him the advice, all right, you keep this youngest son's name Narayan because you will be naturally attached to this body and you will call him Narayan, Narayan, please come here. Narayan, take your food. Narayan, take your drink. So you will chant Narayan. Srila Prabhupada suddenly became stunned, unable to speak. Such a thing had happened before, but rarely. He remained in trance, while a pregnant silence held the room. The devotees could see that Prabhupada was experiencing a powerful spiritual emotion. Many of them felt that when he had called out Narayan, he had come face to face with Narayan. He was seeing Narayan. He was seeing Krishna. He was showing how very pleased he was with his pure devotee. Surely, Krishna was very pleased with Prabhupada, and although Prabhupada was fully engaged with the details of his movement within the material world, Krishna was with him, giving him assurance from the spiritual world. For the devotees, this moment confirmed the existence of the spiritual world and confirmed that Prabhupada belonged to that world and was only visiting the material world to give Krishna consciousness. Most of the devotees were neophytes, still attached to the material and having little vision of the spiritual. But now they could see the spiritual world through Srila Prabhupada's ecstatic trance. After about a minute, Srila Prabhupada returned to the external consciousness. All right, he said. And then with the same words he used to end all his lectures, he said, thank you very much. Then devotees began a rousing, melodic kirtan. It had been a special moment, and they kept it in their hearts. Srila Prabhupada held a press conference at the Sheraton, Chicago, and the turnout by TV and by the press was good. Sitting on a cushion on a platform, surrounded by his sannyasis, Prabhupada lectured to a group of media people who also sat patiently. He introduced his topic as talking about the spiritual existence of the living being and described the unavoidable miseries of the material world and how to transcend them by learning to love God and thus return to the eternal spiritual world. Those persons endeavoring to attain the spiritual goal are first class men, he said, and he described the four natural social divisions. On concluding, he called for questions. A reporter challenged that the four divisions of society were contrary to everything in American tradition. But Srila Prabhupada replied that only training was required. America was training doctors, engineers, lawyers, and America could train some first class men. Woman reporter, where do women fit into this social structure? You keep referring to a man. Prabhupada replied that a woman was a man's or her husband's assistant. If a woman was faithful to a first-class man, a Brahmana, then she also became first class. If she was married to a second-class man, a Kshatriya, then she would be considered second class. If she was married to a third-class man, a Vaishya, then she was third class. According to the status of her husband, she became first, second, third, or fourth. Woman reporter, you mean she is not qualified as first, second, or third class until she is married? Srila Prabhupada, yes, a woman requires protection. In childhood, she should be protected by the father, in youth, by the husband, and in old age, by the elderly sons. The same reporter asked if Prabhupada thought Indira Gandhi was having political trouble because she was a woman and therefore incapable. Why are you trying to put me in the emergency law? Prabhupada laughed. He then quoted Chanakya Pandit, never trust a woman or a politician. Prabhupada had created a sensation And within a few hours, Chicago's radio and TV stations were talking of the news conference, concentrating almost entirely on his comments about women. A woman, alderman, scheduled to visit Prabhupada, phoned to say that she was cancelling because of Srila Prabhupada's expressed attitudes toward women. A TV station phoned and requested to come over that evening to do an interview. While the Chicago news reporters wrote their stories for the evening and morning editions, Prabhupada's comments were further picked up by United Press International and Associated Press wire services. Srila Prabhupada had wanted to reach the public with his Krishna consciousness message, and therefore he had arrived in Chicago with the specific idea of broadcasting a solution to crime. But now he had hit on a topic that was attracting far more attention. He had had the boldness to assert, in the midst of America's predominant mood of women's liberation, women's real place in society. The devotees were excited by the controversy and were eager to understand the Krishna consciousness philosophy more deeply and to present it exactly. They complained that none of the reporters had delved deeply or allowed Prabhupada to express his ideas of spiritual equality. Yet, when Prabhupada heard that evening that he had touched off so much media response, he was amused. He was ready to tell them more. Why only the woman should become pregnant, he said, reiterating his point before the small group of devotees in his room. The man goes away and she has to take care of the children and beg from the government. Is that independence? Devotee. Then the independence has become contraception. They say, I do not want to have the child. Prabhupada, that means you commit another sinful activity. You will be punished. Devotee. Srila Prabhupada, the whole civilization, American Western civilization, is now bewildered by this theory of women's liberation. Prabhupada. But how they will be liberated? On this point, first of all, let me know. Anyway, I am not speaking of my experience. When we speak from the Shastra. Women's dependence is described in Manu Samhita. Just like Queen Kunti, she is not an ordinary woman. She was learned and exalted. Brahmananda Swami. This is one point. In our devotional line, there are spiritual leaders who have been women, such as Kunti. Prabhupada. Therefore, I say that Kunti remained dependent on her sons. That is my proposition. Her sons were banished, but when they went to the forest, she followed because she thought, I am a widow. I am dependent on my sons. So wherever they remain, I shall remain. Similarly, Sita, the wife of Lord Ramachandra. Lord Ramachandra was requested by his father to go to the forest, not Sita, but she preferred to go with her husband. When her husband said, you are not banished, you stay at home, she said, no, I am dependent on you. Wherever you shall go, I must go. This is Vedic culture. Devotee. Her chastity was her great virtue. But nowadays, that is no longer true. Prabhupada. Nowadays may be different, but I am speaking the Vedic idea. That's all. In all circumstances, unless her husband is crazy or something like that, mad, in every case, the wife is faithful and subservient to the husband. Even the husband goes out of home, Vanaprastha, the wife also goes with him. When he takes sannyas at that time, there is no accompanying of wife. Otherwise, in Grihastha life and even Vanaprastha life, the wife is the constant companion and subservient. Gandhari, her husband was blind. So when the marriage settlement was done, she was not blind, but she voluntarily became blind by wrapping cloth over her eyes. There are instances in the Vedic literature. The wife remains always faithful and subservient to the husband. That is her perfection. The Americans may not like this idea, but that is a different thing. A 5-person TV crew arrived at Prabhupada's apartment, 4 women and a male assistant. Obviously, they were making a point. While the crew set up their lights and equipment, Prabhupada sat serenely behind his low desk, a few of his disciples sitting before him on the floor. The interviewer first asked Prabhupada about his solutions to America's problems. Comparing society to the human body, Prabhupada replied that while all parts of the body were important, the head was the most important. Without a properly functioning head, the person or society was mad. There was need, therefore, for training first-class men. Where do women fit into these 4 classes? The newswoman asked. Srila Prabhupada duly repeated that women, being subordinate to man, had a position according to the position of her husband. And so it went. The questions were challenges. Do you think I'm inferior to you? The interviewer was out to make Prabhupada appear prejudiced, but he spoke only pure philosophy. Spiritually, they are all one, Prabhupada said. Yet, he emphasized the distinction, materially, between man and woman. For example, he said, women can bear children, but the man cannot. Is it possible for the man to become pregnant? Interviewer. What happens when women are not subordinate to men? Prabhupada. Then there is disruption, social disruption. Therefore, in the Western countries, there are so many divorce cases because the woman does not agree to become subordinate to man. Interviewer: what advice do you have to women who do not want to become subordinate to men? Prabhupada: it is not my advice, but it is the advice of the Vedic knowledge that women should be chaste and faithful to man. Srila Prabhupada returned to the point that women bear children, but men cannot. By nature's way, he said, as soon as you get children, you require support from the husband. Otherwise, you are in difficulty. Interviewer: many women have children and have no support from their husbands. They have no husband. Prabhupada: then they have to take support from others. You cannot deny that. The government is giving you support, but the government is embarrassed. If the husband supports the wife and children, the government is relieved of so much welfare contribution. So that is a problem. Man and woman unite. The woman becomes pregnant and the husband goes away. Then the poor woman is embarrassed with the child. She has to beg from the government. So do you think it is a very nice thing? The Vedic idea is that women should be married to a man and the man should take charge of the woman and the children so that they do not become a burden to the government or to the public. Interviewer: what about women who do not have children? Prabhupada: well, that is another unnatural thing. Sometimes they use contraceptives. They kill children, abortion. That is also not very good. These are all sinful activities. One has to suffer for them. It was a heated interview. The feminist interview set on disparaging Prabhupada for his outrageous remarks, yet he remained strong and uncompromising, arguing in such a way as to point out many anomalies of materialistic civilization. Prabhupada didn't discriminate against women as a class and in fact gave women in his Krishna consciousness movement the same opportunity as men. Although the reporter misunderstood him, labeling him as a male chauvinist, actually he was compassionate. According to the Vedic view, women should be protected from exploitative men. Prabhupada was aware that his words were not being appreciated, but he continued hopeful that the truth would prevail and that intelligent people would understand. The important point was liberation, not temporary social or sexist stances. Hare Krishna. Hmm. Very heavy today. Yes. This is Srila Prabhupada. All right, we'll take any thoughts, any reflections. Anybody would like to share anything? Any comments? We have a lot of Matajis on the call. And some Prabhujis also. Let's see, who all do we have today?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, I think when we come to Krishna consciousness, this is always something that we struggle with, women mostly. When we read the Vedic literature, it is like because we have been so drilled that, women independence and everything, it does feel offensive when some of the Vedic literature, like for instance, there is a lot of purports or even texts where woman's body is described in a way which entices men, or there are texts in which women's subordination is described. But then, as you continue reading and as you continue growing and chanting, it at one phase you start understanding that actually when it's just like surrendering to Krishna. When you surrender to Krishna, you actually gain more. You are at an advantageous position. It's not that you have lost your freedom. Same thing as being in a woman's body, that when you actually work in conjunction and are subordinate to your husband, you actually gain more. It's not a loss for a woman. So but that takes time. When newcomers come and you try to explain, it can be offensive. A lot of people we lose because of that. But if they keep persistent and pray to Krishna that at some I don't understand it right now, but please help me understand what you're trying to say, then I think it comes, Prabhu. That's my take. Krishna.
Very beautifully said. Thank you, Mataji. Yes, you have exactly hit the point, hit the nail on the head. Like, yeah, that is what is. Yeah, initially when we read, yeah, those questions are there. We are kind of bewildered sometimes, but yeah, as with anything with scriptures, we have to just remain steady, keep going on and on and on. We may not understand the answers immediately, right? Just like being in a second grade, you may not understand, differential calculus or integral calculus, right? But as you keep studying math slowly, step by step, you'll be able to understand higher math. So yeah, there is a higher, there's a higher purpose and there's a higher vision which we may not be able to understand initially, but if you are persistent, like you said, then yes. And ultimately, when we read scriptures, we understand that there is only one Purusha and everything else is Prakriti, right? So the only Purusha is Lord Shri Krishna, everything else is Prakriti. So even though externally, yeah, one may be in a man's body, or a woman's body, doesn't really matter. End of the day, we are all spirit souls, right? That is our true identity, like Prabhupada explains. So yeah, so we have to come to that state of our true identity, that we are all part and parcels of the Lord. There is only one Purusha, there's everything is Prakriti and Jiva. These are all spiritual potencies of the Lord. And yeah, we understand that when we read our scriptures, and yeah, ultimately Prakriti is dependent on Purusha. So it's very very fascinating and very practical. Yeah, we just have to continue. Actually, it's funny. I was yesterday as Prabhuji was leaving, this guy Anatama Prabhu, somehow this thing. I mean, I think we were there, right, when I made that remark on the home program about Malati Mataji, and Prabhu was immediately said, not Malati Mataji, Malati Prabhu. So so that remark, I asked him that question yesterday, before he was leaving. So about that remark, because I was telling him, like, and I was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, because I know Malati Prabhu likes to be called Malati Prabhu. I usually call her Mother Malati. But we were talking, and then Pandit Srivas Prabhu was also there. So we were just talking, and then he was saying, so I asked this question. So what is your thought about why that remark was inappropriate? And then he said, yeah, and I think she likes to be called Malati Prabhu. And Anatama Prabhu was saying that he himself had been chastised multiple times about that. But then when we were talking, he said, well, Mata is, we have 7 different mothers, right? And Mata is full of respect, as a mother. And G is just an address of respect, in Indian culture. So Anatama Prabhu was also telling to PSD, Pandit Srivas Prabhu, that, yeah, and that is in Indian culture. But he was, we were talking, and then we were discussing that, in India, usually people don't call Matajis. So I don't know why the connotation, that's kind of a derogatory or negative connotation around that word, but we do say Prabhuji and Mataji, so anyway, so that discussion was happening yesterday, and ultimately, it's like, we said, yeah, we just discuss with the person how they would like to be addressed, and it's absolutely fine. If somebody wants to be addressed in a certain way, it's absolutely fine. We address them that way. But then there is nothing wrong in the other way also of calling somebody Prabhuji or calling somebody Mataji, right? Ultimately, again, like Prabhupada's trying to teach us, we are beyond this body, but right now we are in this body. So we have certain social etiquettes that we follow based on the gender, but ultimately we are spirit souls. So I think that is what we have to remember, and eventually, that is kind of our evolution also. We will come to that point, but it's kind of, again, funny and coincidental that we just had that conversation yesterday morning. Okay, because I know, yeah, some Guru Maharajas do call, and Prabhupada also used to call. Prabhuji was saying that Prabhupada used to call. Yeah, we see mostly Prabhupada used to call them by their first names, like Yamuna Devi or Malati or like that. But he also used to call them Prabhu, is what Anutama Prabhu was saying. So there's nothing wrong in that, or nothing wrong in the other way also. So it's just a matter of preference. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments? Then we'll pause here for today. Thank you so much for your wonderful participation in our Japa Sangha, and for sharing your reflections and participating in this reading of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.